At Dickens Heath Primary School in Solihull, a group of Year 5 pupils are about to find themselves under intense scrutiny. Over the next 4 weeks, they'll be taking part in an Assessing Pupil Progress case study run by their deputy head, Jackie Nichols. Her challenge is to diagnose the strengths and weaknesses of 6 benchmark pupils.
Right, Year 5. Got a busy afternoon ahead, ready for action again? Yeah. Good.
In this 4-part series, we'll find out just how APP works as we follow Jackie getting to grips with this new forensic approach to assessment.
I think with the hurly-burly of any sort of teacher's day and lessons, you're grabbing snapshots of what children feed you in terms of the answers they give or the work in their books, and we do kind of assume so much.
Assessing Pupil Progress, or APP as it is known, is being touted as the next big thing when it comes to teacher-led assessment in schools. But exactly how does it work?
Now, what are we actually...
In this series, we'll get an up-close view of APP in action as Jackie gathers detailed evidence of each child's maths ability. Her evidence is then placed before an independent moderation panel who will assess Jackie's judgment.
Do you think there's 2 edges there that would never ever meet?
We've called in 2 APP experts who will be on hand to help Jackie through the process, and we'll be getting tips and ideas from teachers around the country who've already tried APP.
I think I found the scariest part was preparing for moderation.
It also seemed as if it was going to be an awful lot of paperwork.
It isn't just another system for the sake of it. It really does build on existing good practice.
I'm going to give you another 30 seconds and then you can have a chat with your talk partner.
Jackie often uses quick written numeracy tests to gauge her pupils' level. But she knows they're not always a reliable indicator of a child's ability.
It can be quite difficult to assess maths because it is heavily weighted in terms of number. And if you're not careful, what you can do is pigeonhole children. And actually, children, in terms of their profile in mathematics, are going to be a little bit more spiky, if you know what I mean by that. So, you know, they might be strong in number, but less strong in shape and space. Thank you very much. Right, Year 5, voices off. Let's find out what we've got.
Today, local maths consultant Louise Burnett is on hand to help Jackie through the first stages of her APP case study.
I think the real positive thing is it's giving back that independence to teachers. It's trusting their teacher professional judgment, and they assess the children, they know them best. It's taking an assessment over the course of the year or the term rather than just judging them on a test result on one particular day.
Sam.
Me?
Yes?
88.
Okay, well done you.
That's 6.8. 6?
That's mine, Alex.
Easy. I done that in one go.
The challenge is to move away from assessment through written work and to find evidence of a child's ability to use and apply maths.
I think it's quite likely that she will rely very heavily on the pupil's written work, because generally that's the evidence that teachers have to see whether a child has gained what they wanted them to understand. That's very difficult from a vocabulary point of view, because obviously you can't hear every child talking during the lesson.
What do you think,
We can
Olivia?
perhaps address that by looking at different ways of setting up teaching tasks for the children where the children can really get the benefit of that and have the opportunity to show her what they can really do.
In order to gauge where the whole class is in their learning, Louise and Jackie are focusing on a small group that will represent a cross-section of the class.
We've pinpointed 6 benchmark children who represent the different ability groups within Jackie's class, and we're looking at how Jackie assesses those different things that she can pick up that they can and can't do.
Eleanor, Jake, Olivia, Megan, Luke and Sam are the 6 children whose progress will be assessed. The first step is to gauge what level they're currently at.
I enjoy maths because I have a go at it. If I get stuck, like,
I don't stop, I don't go and ask the teacher. I usually just carry on.
Luke is quite an effervescent child within the class and, you know, has that confidence to actually take part and put his hand up and come out to the front and demonstrate.
We have triangles, which is the lowest group, which I used to be in. You can probably figure it out by triangles 3 sides, square 4 sides, pentagon 5 sides and hexagon 6 sides, and that's the top group. I'll be in pentagons by the end of the year if I work well in squares.
I like maths because I'm in the top group and we have quite hard challenges and it's very fun, maths.
And Megan does tend to kind of sit back. I can see that she really does have the understanding there, but isn't always the person who will put up her hand and push herself forward.
Sometimes she can see that people are finding it quite hard, but I try my best effort and try and get the work done quickly, but like properly.
Maths is not my really strongest subject, but I still do like it.
Sam came into year 5 and was a little bit shaky in terms of his mathematical understanding, and I think a lot of it boiled down to confidence as much as anything else.
When I get a question, I forget it 30 seconds after. I just forget it and then I can't remember it and have to work it out again.
No, you're trapped. You're trapped. Sometimes maths are hard, but Mrs. Nichols always finds a fun way and that helps me.
And Olivia in particular has that real determination and she really gets herself involved in her learning, but still slightly below expectation at the moment.
It depends what, if you're doing shapes or because sometimes I don't know sometimes what they're talking about. I find it harder than most people.
Break 2. Break 3.
I find music more fun because I can play most musical instruments. Well, 3.
Jake again is quite vocal and he's very competitive, so he likes to be first and sort of come up with all the answers.
I actually found out in year 4 I was a visual learner.
Eleanor can sometimes fade into the background, so in terms of the general day-to-day running of the classroom, I do tend to try and make sure I touch base with Eleanor.
Eleanor, break's over. Can you come in now, please?
Yes, Mrs. Owen.
So I guess the next move now would be to plan subsequent lessons. We need to really home in on that and have a look at where those children are and which pieces are missing and build those into subsequent lessons. Yeah. I mean, one of the main key pushes of APP is looking at their maths in different contexts. So giving the children the opportunities to really show you they understand a concept in lots of different situations.
Before Jackie sets the pupils their first task, how did other teachers who've tried APP find these early stages of the process?
I have really learned how important it is to actually sit back and observe the pupils in my class. I think I'd gone down the route, especially in maths, of very much focused teaching time, and every moment was about me and the children and learning, and it still is, but I've started to build into my teaching time when I would just sit and observe a group of children.
Checking through their books, for instance, I was quite convinced that they understood line graphs completely and fine. You know, it looks through the book and there's a lesson objective, there's ticks that show that they've understood it. I'd have said that they understood it. When we came to do some practical work where they were recording things in terms of a graph, and when they had an assessment which required them to interpret a graph, they struggled.
But it was only when I allowed myself to stop teaching and give my time over to observing and really sit and watch and listen to a group of children that I noticed that there were quite significant differences in children's ability to use mathematical language. That was really interesting for me.
For her first step, Louise encouraged Jackie to gather evidence by listening and observing. She'll be looking at one of the most difficult areas to assess, shape and measure.
Part of APP and deciding where those children need to move to next, we need to know where those children are now. So Jackie needs to have a very clear understanding of what level she thinks those children are working at currently. Because we're looking at a shape and space lesson, sometimes children's ability in shape and space is different to how it is in number. So she needs to know those children quite well.
Do you feel any more?
Excuse me. Would a circle be a line of symmetry?
A circle can have a line of symmetry.
Their first task is to identify and explain mathematical shapes in a piece of artwork.
So can you find a trapezium? Does it say to add a line, or does it say... It also gave me an opportunity to see the children who were still maybe struggling to explain and reason, whilst they could identify that something was perpendicular or that it was an obtuse angle. They only really know and understand it if they can explain why.
But what you've got to do on the first
Well, if all the sides are the same and all the angles are the same, then what shape must it be? It's an easy shape that you know.
It soon became evident that there were gaps in her pupils' understanding of basic maths terms.
Okay, and what was it about it? What kind of a triangle do you think it was?
Isosceles.
You think it was an isosceles without a bottom on it there?
Just coming down like that.
Okay, I'm going to put some words up that might help us in a minute. Okay, 5 seconds. What I began to see was the age-related vocabulary that they needed to use. For example, words like trapezium, rhombus, and being able to justify and talk about those shapes was shaky. And I needed to find a way to actually make sure that I hadn't missed anything, that they weren't building their knowledge and understanding on a bit of a rocky foundation. Where did you find them? Point it out on here.
There.
What would you need to do to check that?
Get a ruler.
Definitely. And what would the angle need to measure if it was a right angle? 90 degrees. So I'm not 100% about that one, but where else? So I think it was important for me at that stage to take a little step back, because without having those prior skills, it would be very difficult later on as they move through their sort of learning journey to actually build on.
What am I measuring if I measure across a circle, do you know? Do you know what it's called? The line across the middle of a circle. Into D. I've been working with some of the children in the classroom, and there are certainly children in there who are very confident working on their own, perhaps too confident and too quick to record things. They're not as confident when they start working with somebody else and need to explain their reasoning. And I think that's something Jackie really needs to try and pick up on in those next lessons, giving those children that opportunities where the task that they're given, they have to explain their reasoning to somebody else and justify their judgments before committing themselves to paper.
Next time on APP How Does It Work? We found out how a music lesson can reinforce maths vocabulary and provide key assessment opportunities.
Congruence, you are break 1. Parallels, break. Perpendiculars.
And mentor Louise calls in colleague Donna Wright, who interviews the benchmark children. She finds out just how much the children are retaining from Jackie's lessons.
Do you know anything about trapezium?